Welcome back in another episode of our Witcher series. This time the water monster Aeschna, in Polish Żagnica, the monster well known from the books, however, as far as I remember, didn't recall on any of the games. So there we go, we have one in the board game. The model again primed with the black primer, and we're gonna start with XV88 and we're gonna paint the legs and the body. As you can see on the pictures at the start of this video, I put some water effect on this monster. That's why it took me so long. But I hope you do like the effect of this process. Now, as you can see, we painted over with staple over the brush just to cover the body part of our monster. However, the aim is not to cover entirely the black. We want to have some natural shading coming through, so don't put too much paint on your brush and just stamp it here and there. Obviously on the top part we add in a little bit more than on the bottom. Our next shade is the Screaming Skull from Citadel again, and we put in a bit on the timber trunk, and then we mix in with the GORTHOR brown and put in on the timber bark. Our first shade color is Seraphim Sepia, and we put all over the model except the shell. So the body of the monster and the timber that she's sitting on. Reikland flesh shade again here and there, just to create some natural shade between those two colors. And then a little bit of the Agrax earthshade as well. So now this is the first step. And then we're gonna look after the timber itself. So we're gonna start with the Mourfang brown, and again with stamp here and there just to create more shading. The same process with the Dryad bark. So again here and there stamp with the brush just to give that effect of a different shades of brown. Now, as you can see, I'm mixing a little bit of our Screaming Skull with the XV88, and on those pieces of the timber when the bark is missing, I add a little bit of the lighter tone, and then with the Mourfang brown, I literally draw some lines on the bark just to create that kind of pine bark effect. Again, we're doing a couple of stages, and we're adding a mixture of different shades of brown, ivory into that bark, just to create a nice texture. Once that's done, I put another layer of our wash, the Reikland flesh shade. Now, as you can see, I'm adding another layer of our XV88 to the rest of the body. However, I diluted this tone with the screening school. I'm doing this in a couple of stages. So initially with just a little bit of the screaming school, and then with every consecutive layer we added more and more of that. Now this is a funny thing, the makeup sponge is a perfect tool to paint. You get a nice smooth transition while you're doing that. So after a couple of layers using the dry brush paint, then you might use that sponge. It's literally cheap, very cheap to get, and it's perfect tool to paint. So adding more ivory, and towards the end, as you can see, the color looks like pretty much plain ivory, in our case the screaming school. Our next shade, White Scar, and we repeat the process with the sponge. Just when you're controlling the amount of paint, you might check it on your skin first if you haven't used that method first. Next, we switch to the speed paint called Pallid Bone, and we paint it all over the gloves, the head of our monster, also the wee legs underneath. So this is the effect we get so far, and now we're gonna move to the shell. So we're gonna cover it with the brownish purple. So first I paint one side with the brown color, and then I did a little bit of the wet blending with the purple, the NAGGAROTH Night, and the purple is going literally on the bottom of the shell. Repeat this process on the other side, and this is our base for painting the shell of our monster. The mouth are also painted with the purple. My next color will be green to paint some eyes, and in this case is the Hexwraith Flame, and we put a little bit on each eye's pupils, and then we switch to the green wash, the Biel-tan green, and we try to create some moss effect on that tree trunk. Next, using the masking tape, I secure those antennae on the top, and then our next step is the CASTELLAN green, and again using the makeup sponge we gonna paint the shell. The advantage of that technique is that we stamp the paint gently, so we keep all the recesses with our original color. In this case is the mixture of the brown and purple, and that gives us a nice texture and transition between the shade and the sun. As you can see, I add a little bit of yellow into our green, and we're gonna be doing that in a couple of stages, making a lighter green on the top when the light comes down. So again, you know, if you feel that there's too much paint on the sponge, you can easily wipe it off on some kitchen towel or the tissue, and this way you dose the amount of color that you apply to our model. I think it's the best substitute of the airbrush, and you can get a nice transition on every color without buying an expensive equipment like the airbrush. Now I add a little bit to our Hexwraith flame just to create a kind of like a mid-tone and put a little bit of that kind of greenish tone here and there, just to have an even nicer transition. Once we finish with our sponge, again we're gonna highlight some details with the fine brush, and again it's gonna be a very yellow color, maybe not a pure Averland sunset, but very close to it. You can see on the palette in the back the shade I use, and I put in that on all those kind of like bony grown shell parts, and then on the edge of each shell layer a little bit as well. Again, while you're doing that, try not to go over the body parts that we done previously. You know, you don't want to destroy your works from the previous stage. And towards the edge I put a little bit eye pupils with the yellow. We're gonna put a little bit green on the top of this later, but just to create some sort of shading on the eyes. Now, as you can see, we're back to our purple, so we cover a little bit of the second layer on the mouth, as it was pure black background, so the color doesn't stand out too much. And we added in a little bit of the pink, the screamer pink in this case, and the final touch will be adding a little bit of the white and create a light pink-ish color there. Next we paint our teeth ivory, and once we have them all done, we're gonna highlight them a little bit with the white. In this case I'm using the white scar. In our next step, I'm getting back to our mixture of XV88 and the Screaming Skull, and just do the small highlights on the legs. Also a little bit on those wee antennas and the claws. As I mentioned earlier on, a little bit more green after we put the yellow dot on the eye pupils, and this is our model so far, ready for the next step, which is the base. The Armageddon Dunes is our main base color, which I put all over it, which is gonna be our sand under the water. Then we're gonna add some plants, and we're gonna sink everything in 2-component epoxy resin that will be our water. If you want to make it fast, forget about the resin and just probably finish at this stage by adding some plants, because the epoxy resin is the long process. It delayed my video quite a bit. First it took a couple days to dry it off, then you need to sand it and put the varnish towards the end. So this is the model pretty much ready to go, and it could be the final stage. Obviously I add a little bit of the green wash on those plants, but I think it looks cool at this point, and it's board ready. You might play with it as it is. And again, I decide to complicate my life a little bit and put some more stuff on it, so I decided to sink it in the water, which is a bit of a process. As you can see, I use a masking tape, and then I create a cup which I filled in with the resin. I add a little bit of the blue paint. In this case is the Italy base paint. It's kind of like a very transparent paint, and I put the liquid resin into it, but it dry very long time. And this is the effect of it. So once you have that done, you need to sand it off properly and then put the gloss varnish in it. My advice is probably in this model is have a little bit of difficult shape because of the trunk, so probably the mounting mass like the blue tack would be much easier to create the cup to fill it in with the resin. Now the final touch is the gloss varnish. It's in my case it's the X22 from Tamiya with the leveling thinner, just to create that transparency effect. But as I said, it's a very long process, and it has a lot of drying time involved. As you can see, also I had to redo the rim because I sanded it off as well. So this is the model ready to go. I hope you like that video tutorial, and I hope you like the effect. Please don't forget to give the thumb up, and if you would like to make any comment on that, feel free to do so. So I hope to see you soon in the next model from The Witcher, and at this time I'm gonna say goodbye and see you soon.